Good morning, everybody. It's Bryan Caprice from Keep Trading Simple, and this is your Tuesday Trade Talk. If you guys, this is your second week joining us, thank you so much for coming back. I appreciate it. And if you're new here, we are very excited to have you. If you guys attend my Monday morning market breakdowns, you guys will know that we have one kind of format, and I'm going to mix it up on Tuesdays just because the week has already kind of been laid out yesterday morning. So if this is the first time joining, make sure you log in on Monday mornings as well. We lay the kind of the week out in advance. So going into today, things are going to be a little bit different. So wasn't the biggest market moving day yesterday, and not really surprised that that was the case, just due to the fact that there really wasn't a whole lot of news releases. Really, the trade of the day yesterday happened at about 4:30 in the morning, about 3 o'clock in the morning, actually, with the London GDP numbers. So again, today we're going to go through it and look for other potential setups, see where things have shook out from the Sunday into Monday, and then we'll lay not only today, but the rest of the week out. All right? So for those of you that don't know me, I'm the president and CEO of Keep Trading Simple. My job is to take the distractions out of the market and really give you what you need. I'm a price action trader. You guys, if you've heard me before, you guys know that I talk a lot about the bodies of candles, the wicks of candles, really the way that the candles are formed. I'm not a kind of pattern person. I'm not looking for engulfing bear patterns and haramis and those kinds of things. I'm looking how the candles were formed to find supply and demand. I've created a couple courses for Nadex. I've worked in the advisory division of one of the big three banks. Realized there that, yes, somebody could say that I am an advisor, but most of them, 99.5% of them, have absolutely no idea about trading. So for me, my passion is actually teaching people. I love teaching you guys to do it yourself, not needing and relying upon other people. And again, you'll see a lot in my charts. I'm going to be talking about that, using technology, setting alerts. Again, I don't believe in sitting in front of a computer for 16 hours. Use the technology that we have, and I'll show you and kind of run you through that. Now, as far as disclaimers go, obviously you guys know trading on Nadex involves financial risk, and it may not be appropriate for all investors. The information presented here is for information and education purposes only and should not be considered an offer or solicitation to buy or sell any instrument on Nadex or elsewhere. Now, any trading decisions that you guys make is solely your responsibility. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. I'm not going to talk about results, so not a problem there. Nadex contracts are based on underlying asset classes, including Forex, stock index futures, and commodity futures, okay? And I will bring up one of the commodity futures for tomorrow. Now, trading can be volatile and investors risk losing their investment on any given transaction. However, the design of Nadex contracts ensures that investors cannot lose more than the cost to enter the transaction. Very important you guys understand those. Now, Nadex is subject to U.S. regulatory oversight by the CFTC. If you don't know who those guys are very important people to understand. And again, that oversight is great. Very important to have. So if you guys were here yesterday, you know that these were my top three trades of the week. Basically all back end, right? It's going to be a low news release week. But I will say right there, number 3, you guys can see the crude oil numbers are going to be tomorrow morning. Now, crude oil, it's a little bit early to start looking at those charts and setting those things up. And the reason why is because so much can happen today in preparation for tomorrow morning. Typically, the analysis for something like crude oil is something you want to do the morning of before the market's open, okay? Particularly because you have to figure out, are you going to take it in kind of a spike scenario, or are you going to play a retest, okay? I'll show you actually the numbers for tomorrow, though. Let's jump across to that right now. Let me drag something into this window. Okay, Forex Factory is a website that I use. I use multiples, as you guys know, if you've seen any of these broadcasts, and I use it for a couple different things. We're talking about crude, so let me go over across the crude oil real quick. You guys will see right here, this 10:30 tomorrow morning is when we have the crude oil numbers, all right? When I talked about the forecast changing, you guys can see here are the forecasts for the entire year, really back till May, right? You guys can see whenever there's a green or a red number, they miss the forecast by what's considered a significant amount. That is something that is market moving, that there's going to be some type of a spike or some type of a reaction. You can see that they're not really super accurate, okay? Now, you guys will see too, some of the ones recently, they've been pretty off, right? So with that being said, typically we will see the market trying to position itself or prepare itself for the actual release. Well, this is tomorrow morning, okay? We have what? 15, 16 hours, so it's a little bit early to start, dissecting a chart. So I'm not going to look at an oil chart, but just for those commodity traders, those oil traders out there, get in there and tomorrow morning, about the same time tomorrow morning, start looking and doing the same analysis that I do on all these currency charts, but do it for oil. And you'll see that, again, price action is price action. It doesn't matter what chart you're on, okay? So And you guys can see some of these ones are off, you know, over here, this is a big one right here. This is a big one, miss. This is a big miss, okay? This is a big miss. You can see them all over the place. This was a big miss again by 10. I mean, this was a huge one. They expect to be negative, and it was positive huge. I mean, again, this May one is a little bit close, right? That's probably one of the closest ones up here, but you can see they really have no idea on these forecasts. So if you're not looking at oil charts and you're interested in getting into oil, go out there, do it, and then again, attempt to do it in a safe environment. Do it in demo mode if you haven't done it ever before. Try your strategies. Use what I'm going to teach you guys today and on these broadcasts, and trade oil. Okay. So looking into today, okay, I'll just refresh it. It's easiest. You guys can see before is basically we had pound news this morning. More good pound news, right? And again, but average earnings is not really the biggest mover. And then tonight we have Westpac consumer sentiment. You'll see there is nothing else during the middle of the day. Okay, I mean I can click the this here and you can see, oh, there's a whole bunch of small stuff, right? But I mean, a small business index going to move the market? No, it didn't. Are housing starts in Canada going to move the U.S. market? Not really, right? I mean, there's going to think so. I mean, the only real U.S. data is this job openings, but again, that's not really a market mover. We're not going to be talking about that all day. Okay. Now, what we will be looking for today, and again, this is something that's not necessarily it's not really predictable because it'll happen throughout the day, is if you go over to the news section over here, you're going to see a lot of talk back and forth. This is kind of what's going to dominate it, right? What did we hear yesterday? We heard about, you know, Trump saying that we're going to meet next week. We're going to find, you know, and right here we have the Chinese premier talking about we're going to find solutions to the trade dispute. A lot of people are talking about this, and again, I believe they're very motivated at this point. The closer we get towards election time, the more motivated they're going to be. Okay, again, there's political reasons for that. It's not truly about helping the economy and fixing it as soon as we can. It's about politics. Everything is about politics these days. So that's what we're going to be focusing on. The other thing that we should be looking for is anything pound related, okay? Anything with Brexit. Now, obviously their markets close in a few hours, so we will stop hearing news. But sometimes we can hear late night talk or commentary or something that moves the market over there. Brexit is another big thing in the news. We should always be keeping our ears perked for Brexit, okay? Brexit is very big. It's, you know, those things that like, oh, Brexit is so hot these days. Well, yeah, it is. Why? Because with the deadline coming up and we've had 2 failed votes and, you know, new law came in last night. I saw it about a no deal. So there's a lot of stuff coming on. It's going to be kind of like what we saw in the spring, in the March timeframe, when May was having all those kind of, you know, putting it to vote, and forcing it to vote. We were having swings of 200 in the pound yen every day for like a week straight. Okay, so I believe we are getting back to those times. The problem is right now people just don't have any idea what's going on. All right, so that's kind of what we're listening for. Like I said, this is even on low, and you can see we still don't have a whole lot today. Okay, so that'll be for today. And again, even in tomorrow, you can see really we only have crude oil. So Thursday is where everything really kicks in. You guys can see between 7:45 a.m. Eastern time and about 9. There's where all our data is going to be focused. Okay, and again, it's going to be CPI, which is a good number, as well as this European monetary policy and press conference. If they mention anything about the euro going in recession, bam, there we go, off to the races. Okay, and then Friday, you guys can see it's pretty anemic too, just core stale. So not a huge week, right? So again, I think the big movers this week are going to be anything that's a tweet, which obviously we can't predict, anything that's along the lines of Brexit. Those will be what you're focusing on. Now, looking from yesterday into today, all right, you guys can see that right here, what's the 24-hour pip change in a lot of these currency pairs? 3, -20, 40, and again, this was a big one yesterday. Okay, this was up like 120. This was up, I think, 140 or 160 yesterday morning from Sunday into Monday because of that news. You can see it continued a little bit. This went down and retraced. Everything else is more or less flat. In 24 hours, none of these are actually over what their daily ATR is. For those of you who don't know, ATR is a tool that can give you about the average move of what you expect every day. And in my case, what I'll say is if it doesn't reach its ATR, it didn't put any work in. It was slacking off that day. And again, not surprised with the amount of news in there. So let's look at the charts and see kind of what we have. So let me run through the Nadex specific pairs, okay? That's typically the easiest. So as we mentioned yesterday morning, you can see the Aussie yen is literally on a tear, okay? And again, a lot of this is more or less coming from the yen, right? I wouldn't say it's not really so much Aussie, it's more the yen that is driving this kind of Aussie strength. Now, we're seeing that, you know, again, nice gap, right? And then after the gap, it just kind of did this little like grind sideways, right? Had a little bit of a gap back down again. So it's kind of pulling up. I wouldn't say it's the healthiest. I would say it's a grinder type market, nothing big. For me, I'm looking, you guys see this blue line up here on the left, 74.30. This is an area where I'm looking for some type of kind of flip and kind of, transfer back down again, right? Big push up again. We saw this big push down at base and kind of pushed up again. So I'm looking more in a bearish sentiment over here, but really haven't got any type of confirmation that we've hit where we need to go, right? Where we need to get short. This area pop is where I'm kind of looking right now. I'm kind of had this one on just kind of autopilot. You can see when I drag it back, it looks like it's a lot of movement, but it's really, it's more like this. It's really not a ton of movement. You guys can see over here. So for me, I have a bearish sentiment in this pair. If you're trading this one, there's a number of different ways you can do it. For me, there's no explosive movements off anything on a 4 hour that we're really looking for, really until we get up in this zone. So not too much there. Looking at the little sister here, the Aussie, you'll see we have a same area, another area up there that we're kind of looking at. This is from a prior draw, move that. So again, impulse, we have a bit of a corrective move. And again, we were expecting some type of a corrective move up here. There's a telltale signs that there are sellers kind of hidden over here on the daily. True level that I do like though is up here between 68.90 and 68, basically 68.17, 68.20 range, okay? Now, this one on the small time frame, okay, this is, if you guys don't know, this is my daily time frame up left. This is my 4 hour. And this is my 30-minute. And it doesn't matter what this is. If this is oil for you guys, you do the same 3 time frames if you want, or drop it down to where this is a 4 hour, this is a 30-minute, and this is a 5-minute for news, okay? Now, this one has given us a couple different entries in here, very small type moves, nothing that I would say is earth-shattering. Again, a little bit more of a pullback. This one had a bit of a different gap though, okay? You can see the gap over here. This was a gap in the direction of, and then a gap in the opposite direction of. So, as far as too much, same kind of scenario. I would like for this one to get a bit higher. This is an area of selling up top, and again, these are, typically this will make a push up. You can see this is not, this is not very an explosive movement, and it's a lot of wicks. And if you guys aren't familiar with how candles are formed, obviously what it's showing is your open, close, high, and low. And whenever you see candles that have more wick than body, what it's showing you is there's a lot of indecision in those candles. Okay, there's not a lot of conviction. Things are not moving. And a great example of that is in this one. You guys see this green one right here? Make this bigger for you guys. You see this green one right here? It's basically all body. There was a lot of conviction up, right? But then you start seeing things like this, and it's kind of wish-washy. It's going back and forth, kind of just sideways. A lot of conviction, sideways, hill down. A lot of conviction, sideways. So again, it's the conviction that we're looking for, all right? And this one just doesn't have a whole lot, especially on the 4 hour. There's nothing I would say, hey, if we get a big spike, I'm looking to get in for this one. Everything else is more grindy in this, and again, I'm looking for selling zones. Looking back on the 4 hour, you can see there's a little bit of conviction area here, a little bit right here, and that's kind of where price is getting to. The question is, I'll see what else is available at the time. I went to U.S. market to open. I went some U.S. traders. I want U.S. money to come into the market and see how this is able to react. Right now, this is purely just, neither of these two, are open right now. So you're going to see typically the market, get extremely low volume and not a lot of kind of, not sense, but again, there's just not a lot in there, okay? So we'll see where it goes. Good thing is these two blue lines on here with this channel, okay? I'll bring this in. So we were talking about getting out of this channel from top to bottom, came up, came down, came up, and we were at the top and then gapped over it. So this channel is finally dead. It's finally, not really a concern anymore. But we are kind of, this is a smaller level area right here based off of this kind of tumbling and then large push out. So we do have one little area right above. If we can get up to 68.82, we could be looking for potential shorts in this one, okay? Now, dropping down to the euro pound, okay? I've been spending a lot of time on this pair. I've really been into this pair lately. This is that kind of large kind of pop that we talked about. Now, here was the selling, right? Okay, this is, it came in last week, kind of came down. This one also had a similar situation. We gapped in the direction of the trend yesterday, popped and went all the way down, and then we retested, okay, or retraced, I guess. Here's where we can see on the lower time frame. Here was your gap, okay. Here was where we ended on Friday, gap down in the direction of trend, okay, on the 4 hour, and popped, grabbed those orders from the gap, and literally launched itself down. Now, the problem that this one ran into, and this is one of those things that people are like, well, I don't understand. There's not lines everywhere in your charts. No, I don't have lines, but I have boxes. There are areas of buyers and sellers. Down here was the last time when price was this low, price catapulted. Huge impulse move, right? Impulse, correction, move, impulse. And went up into a selling area. Well, we're down in a buying area. And that's kind of what it ran into. It pushed really, really far, right? And then kind of just blah on Friday, right? Started to give us a little bit of a bounce off this buying area. And that's what gave us the gap, the retest, the push down, and then the retrace. Now we're still stuck in kind of this news move from yesterday. This is the GDP number for pound. It's very rare that we have GDP numbers on Monday, but man, what a way to start off Monday. This was literally the trade of the day yesterday, this one and the pound dollar. Nice push down. It retested about 50% up, through this move, and then just kind of flatlined. Okay, we did get a little push down, and if you guys can see here, I don't know if it's big enough for you to see, right? Again, where did it pull back to? An area of basing. Okay, there's your little tiny area of basing. It popped up. It went right back to this little sell area. Okay, right in here. Okay, and again, I'll make this bigger so you guys can, I'm not just drawing boxes here. All right, so this area right here, you guys will see we have a wick over wick situation, which are little hidden zones. Okay, not only did it retrace to the wick over wick and fall back down again, but it came lower. It came to the basing level, this base, sideways base. Hit, came back up, grabbed that same wick over wick again, pushed back down again, and actually let's extend this. It's probably right, let's see, right there. We missed it by just a little tiny bit, okay? What one of my students would call pipettes. So again, it's formed a channel with buyers and sellers in this one, and we're kind of approaching the bottom side of it. So let's get a call and see what it does down here at the bottom. And again, any type of Brexit news will pounce this back and forth. This zone right now, let's see, we're talking about 40 pips. So you're talking about 2 strike prices on this one. So you're going to more or less have to use, again, this is a 30-minute chart. You're going to have to use 2-hour binaries or some of the ones that are expiring if you're going to play this one today. But there are some opportunities in the pound, this euro pound. All right. Looking at the euro yen obviously is kind of moving the same way, but again, this has the yen inside of it. And what did we see with the Aussie yen? We saw that the Aussie yen was obviously rising with yen weakness. Same exact chart, right? It basically looks the same, although this one is kind of pushed up a bit higher. Looking at the 30-minute, this one I don't mind as much. We had this level of basing right here, and there's a trade a couple hours ago at about 5 a.m. this morning that we missed out on. You guys will see there's a level of basing right here, and what did price do? It literally bounced, came back up again, and ran into the last level of basing. So a lot of short-term moves on this one. This is one of those things, this environment where, again, you're getting no news, no huge driving factors, and you're getting smaller moves, does make it a little bit more difficult when people think Nadex, because most Nadex traders, the first thing they think of is daily trade. Where are the dailies? I got to trade the dailies. Those are the ones, those expire at the end of the day, and they have that daily mindset involved there. What I'm finding is environments like this where we don't have a lot of news and we're talking about smaller moves. I mean, we're talking about, this is a 40 pip move back up to the top here. Again, that's 2 strike prices on the dailies, but that is what, 5 strike prices on the 2 hours? So you're giving yourself a lot more room to be correct. It's a shorter time frame, right? But again, you'll see a lot of times, price it bases out on off hours. So if you're in the peak hours and you're trading this and looking at this, look down to the 2 hours. Okay, that's where a lot of these trade setups are going to be. All right, and that's where this trade setup would have been here. So again, we're approaching the buy zone at the bottom again, down here at 118.40, and maybe slightly numbers on your brokerage firm. Currencies, just so you guys know, if you're not a currency trader, currencies are a little bit different. Every broker may have a slight difference in price. Again, because there's no centralized exchange, it's a little bit different. But if you're doing the same type of analysis, looking for your trend, your intermediate, and your revision, it doesn't really matter. It should all be the same. Okay, do it based off of your broker, because that's where you're going to see the bounces, because that's where the orders are. All right. So again, if we get back down to this 118.40-ish area, again, we could potentially be looking for a buy scenario. Although at this point, we are somewhat in a downtrend, right? We have lower highs, we definitely have lower lows. There's 2 good confirmed ones at this point. So it does look like we have a trend reversal. An area that I'd be watching out for if you're taking anything short is I would, which one am I looking for? This one right here. This would be the target area for what I'm looking for right now if you decide to take this, okay? There was a nice little pop off this area. It kind of did a little impulse drop and then explosion. So this would have to be a, let's see, it changes to green. That would have to be a target if you're looking to get short this pair, okay? And that is down for me at 118.05. Looking across the euro dollar. Now, euro dollar, okay, was on a tear, okay? This one gave us a little bit of a fake out. Now, on the 4 hour over here, you can say, hey, listen, there's some basing right there. It went above, and yes, it absolutely did, and it turned around. Now, what made this one a little bit difficult is, again, we had this little, what I would call a sawtooth, right? we have 3 candles down here on the daily that all have lower tops to them, and they're all wicks, okay? Meaning we have established orders, established orders, established orders, and this pop, now from the 5th, came up and hit it and then kind of pushed down again, right? So we have lower orders here, and then boom, same thing, lower, lower, lower. So again, downtrend here, they got broken because of news, and then we've picked it back up again, all right? So looking at the 30-minute, you can kind of see we're in a similar situation, right? Now, this one just hit the target a little while ago. It kind of came back up again in this failure to go higher and grabbed orders, pushed back down again, impulse correction, impulse move, and ran right into an area of buyer. So we've kind of just hit a profit target on this one. Not the hugest move. And again, this one, the entry would have been a little bit difficult. If you had used a Nadex entry on this one, obviously, this one you would have been fine because with, there's an inherent stop loss in there because you can only lose, what you put into the trade. If you'd have used this level right here, let me extend this out again. Okay, right here. Had we used this level of basing right here for an entry, somewhere around probably the 110.50 or even the 110, it could be the 110.60 in there too. Depending on which one you would have used in here, you could have waited till we got a confirmation and used a 2-hour. And again, price could have popped you back down here, which would have been a nice little play, okay? Again, when price popped above the zone, you wouldn't have gotten stopped out using a Nadex pair, okay? So again, kind of one of the advantages of things I like, especially when you're trading at, off hours, all right? That's a way to take advantage of it. So again, still viable for Nadex. It dropped about 30 pips from then till now. Not a bad little movement in something that is so small, right? Again, this thing has moved only 20 pips and it's down 20 pips in the last 24 hours. Okay, you guys can see from basically here all the way down. Going across and looking at the pound yen. So the pound yen was the big mover yesterday. Yesterday morning, you can see that it was up. Now, here was that kind of move that we talked about, right? That kind of pull back down again, and this is the spike yesterday morning. This thing was just a rocket ship. Now, 2 ways that you could have played this one, okay? And I talked about this yesterday morning. The first one was a sell from here down, okay? And again, that was a very small risk put down right before news is when you'd want to get out of that, right? Large launch, and now this one, unlike the other yen-based pairs, didn't have the same type of retrace, the retracement. And it didn't pull back again. It just kind of, grounded a little bit higher. And again, it's kind of been stuck up in this upper range. Now, again, this was the news this morning. Remember we talked about there was pound news this morning. This one popped and now is retraced right back again. So it's sitting in a daily sell zone right now. Haven't gotten confirmation on the 4-hour that we're ready to flip yet. It's still grinding higher, looking for those seller orders to step in there. Until those seller orders step in, I'm not looking to step into this one, although I am definitely a bit more short biased. We are at the upper reaches of this zone though, so I am, again, I am not completely closed off to if we can break through the top, looking for somewhat of a momentum breakout. Any of my students know I call that the Harry Potter trade. If you don't know what that is, I'll show you my website. You guys can go across and I'll tell you what the Harry Potter trade is on another broadcast. But, basically a momentum breakout, I'd be looking for profit targets up here at 135. And again, I don't think that's wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility, breaking through the zone and then clearing ourselves all the way up to 135. I do think that's possible with a little bit more pound strength. And like I said, all the numbers we've seen in the last week for the pound have been good. I think, again, with all the Brexit news coming out there, a move like that is definitely possible. All right. Going to pound dollar. Have it come across. All right, there we go. So pound dollar, same pop. This one, again, unlike the pound yen that is up over here now, right? This one kind of pulled back, kind of came up and tested again. Here was your peak, here was your push, right? Here's a red, green, red in color formation. Again, this is what we would call a color change. Here is the top, right? Obviously something pushed that around. And what happened? We got a retest here, pop. Retest here, kind of came down. Retest again, launch itself even farther, breaking low. Okay, so there's been multiple setups off of this area, okay? I could have read it's easier that way. Okay, from that area, right? If we hit it again, we're starting to approach the time now where we're talking about 1, 2, 3. I think it'll probably hold one more time, but only because this one only made it about half the way through. It is getting to kind of the no-no range of, after 3, 4 tests, it's pretty much going to fail. There's just not that many sellers that will sit there and continue to push this down if it wants to make another attempt. If we are unable and we start to put a kind of a flip and we break this low, I am going to be looking for targets on the short back down to the 122.43 area. And again, that's a potential area for me It's going to depend on if we can break and kind of start turning it and closing a bit lower. But again, this one, obviously, huge news move, looking for retracements off of that level. And again, right now we've kind of pulled back, and we're going to see if, is this going to be a valid push to kind of try to go higher, or is it already starting to fail? And that's why we're seeing the wicks in that one. And again, you guys can see it over here. Push down, another new spike, and it's just kind of halting, right? Both of these are kind of running out of steam real quick, okay? And again, off of this just enormous push, okay, from last week. Now, going into, oh, was that not on pound yen? No, it was on pound. I'm sorry, I was already down there. Let's go down to dollar CAD. So dollar CAD, this is one that I kind of have a love-hate relationship with. We get a lot of this sideways wick movement, and then all of a sudden, bam, it just launches itself. Now, it did have a buying zone down here, and that's what we bounced off of yesterday, and have kind of rallied back from. You guys can see it over here. I talked about this last night, and again, we talked about we have this single wick against a wall, which means we still have buyers here, but then it's also followed up with another wick at the bottom. So kind of a large risk area that I wasn't necessarily taking much off of. And what I was worried about was this kind of red selling zone above it. Okay, we had seen that zone before. A lot of things will come through, break, and then come up and retest. And it did it slightly here, but then again, it's doing it over here on the 4 hour. But it's wedged, right? And this is, I don't really like trades like this that whoops, not that one. Where am I going? Right there. I don't like wedges like that. So here, whoops, let me move this across. No, not that. This is what I'm worried about, is that we're going to have a ping pong effect between these two different areas. And again, so far we're starting to see that here. We came up, here was the gap, here went all the way back up, down, up, and are we going to come back down to this side here? So for me, what I'm looking for, again, technically, according to my indicators, the ones that I use, my tools, this is a downtrend setup. I should be looking to go short. Problem is on the 4 hour, because we have such a huge gap, there's not a whole lot of clean in here, especially with this gigantic wick right here. If you guys see this candle right here, it's actually the fourth because there's a little doji right here, but the third green body one, or the third red body one, here's all wick and then more wick. So it's a candle with a lot of indecision based inside of it. It's you guys can see it, it's right here. It's just ugly, right? This thing right here, that messes up a lot of price action, because what it's doing is it's called a clearing wick. It's shooting all the way back up. It's wiping out all the orders from then till now, and it's hard to read, right? And again, once it popped back down again, sideways, a little pop down, a little pop up, and we're just kind of moving sideways. So it's not really giving me a true direction of what the trend actually is. I would be looking for retraces in this one, because we had such a large movement last week. But right now, it just hasn't really bounced off a very clean area, because the candles that were formed over here, again, a lot of indecision. I mean, look at this. All wick, all wick, all wick, all wick. I mean, it's all wicks in here, okay, instead of this clean type of movement. Again, you can't force a trade when one doesn't exist. Looking at dollar Swiss. Dollar Swiss has had some nice movement as well in recent weeks. Now this one, again, gap up, pounced back down again, bounced up again to the same kind of hidden area, and again, pulled back again. So you guys can see it over here. It's on a daily. It's actually it's behind a wall, so it's a little bit hidden. I'll bring this up just there, okay? That's kind of where the zone is, right? Again, we got past it, but now it's been holding firm, okay? Came up and hit it again. So again, we are in somewhat of a selling area. I am a bit more biased on this one for kind of a downturn. And again, this is a US-based pair, right? If there's geopolitical news that is bad for the United States, this thing will go down, okay? If trade talks suddenly blow up, this will go down, okay? If somebody shoots a missile, this will go down. If Hong Kong protests are getting out of hand, this will go down. It's a geopolitical based pair. It's not really necessarily based off the most fundamentals, and that's just something you got to kind of keep yourself aware of. But again, we did just bounce off of an area of selling. So again, you guys can see it right here. There's another one. We'll see if it's able to kind of break through the top or bottom and give us some good movement. All right. Last but not least, dollar yen. And again, dollar yen is typically the proxy for the overall stock market. So you guys can see dollar yen. Similar situation to what we saw in other pairs. Again, we are inside of again, that changes to red, so we're not confusing people of why some of them are blue. Okay. We have a wick over wick, and again, it's one of my favorite hidden formations. You can see we kind of got close and pulled back, and then kind of made another attempt to push in, and we're definitely in that area now. Okay, and you can see, had this kind of failure to go higher, we had a red, we had a green, and we had a red push down, which I absolutely love. That's kind of a It's kind of a reversal pattern that we focus on, depending on what it bounces off of. And you can see, again, kind of similar to what we did before, when you guys have these big pushes down, right? What did it do? It popped up there for news and then kind of pushed back down again, right? This is the 7:30 news this morning that, again, it's not really anything big. I have to say I'm bearish on this one. I hate when people are like, oh, you're bearish, the U.S. pairs. It's like, gotta say I'm bearish this one. I think if the yen gets some strength today, I don't see any reason why this can't come back down and test really the 10. I mean, I'd say it's going to come down and test the 107, but we're only talking about a 30 pip pullback. It's down into this area, and it looks like a lot of movement right to here. But, again, that's the last time that we saw a level of basing and then a nice rally forward, okay? Obviously, on your charts, again, thinking about this for the rest of the week, you definitely got to keep this area here, this gap on the 4-hour, from 106.40 to 106.25. Keep that, keep that in mind, okay? That is a good area down here, right? That's where the gap actually initiated from Friday into where we went into Sunday. So obviously we're quite far away. We're about 100 pips away, but keep that in your radar. If price comes back down to there, all of a sudden you're gonna have to switch your mindset and say, hey, listen, this is a previous area of buyers. I gotta be thinking about potentially getting long if we get that later on this week. All right. So with that being said, guys, that is the last Nadex currency pair. If you have questions, and I do try to go quick. I do try to get as much of this out as possible, as fast as I can. If you have any additional questions, you're more than welcome to kind of reach out to me personally. I do have a special webinar this week on parabolic retracements on Thursday. You can check the Nadex website and register for that if you haven't already. This is how you can find us at keeptradingsimple.com. You can use the old-fashioned email, support@keeptradingsimple.com, or we do nightly broadcasts Monday through Thursday over on Twitch at 9 p.m. Eastern as well, if you want to kind of get the overnight view of what we're looking at. In it kind of more relaxed, we're on there a little bit at night. We don't have any time constraints or whatever during those times. All right. So with that being said, thank you guys so much. I will see you guys next week. I will be back on next Monday for the Monday morning market breakdown, and then as well as the Tuesday trade talk. So you guys take care. Have a safe week trading. Enjoy your weekend, and best wishes to everybody. Take care.